Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020. Thanks for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Wow, that's all I got to say. Today was one of those days where you couldn't do a live show. No matter how busy you are during the day, there was no choice. Lots to talk about. First, let's start with our space weather conditions. Right now, our solar wind speeds are coming in at 295.6 kilometers per second with a density of 6.6. Now, this is probably going to be the calm before the storm, as we are expecting solar wind to impact our magnetic field on the 23rd or the 24th. Now, on top of that, we have a CME that, excuse me, that was released on the 19th of July that should be affecting Earth's magnetic field tomorrow. So what's going on, right? Well, a lot's going on, actually. Lower solar activity equals not just climate issues, but seismic and volcanic. And what we've had here the past several days is a coronal hole, a decent sized one that's been Earth facing. KP indices have been averaging between a 0 and a 2. And when you have Earth-facing coronal holes and KP indices of 0 to 2 in that frame, you could expect seismic activity for the next 24 to 48 hours. And we have seen a parade of actions today. We are talking about at least one sunspot right now as well. That ended a 10-day streak, by the way. AR 2767, it is sunspot number 11, which really is a small sunspot when you look at sunspot numbers. Not that many in this group, very weak and a typical solar minimum sunspot. But I will add that this sunspot is a member of solar cycle 25, so we are seeing very less excuse me again, of solar cycle 24, and thus so we should be. But I want to point something out as well. And by the way, last week when we did a broadcast, we had cosmic radiation at 9.1%, a little bit lower. We've seen it in the 10s and the 11s here lately, but it is slowly but surely climbing back up towards that 10%. Now, if cosmic radiation is up, and we are looking at the headlines today with just all kinds of stuff here, flooding, heavy rains. I know one of our subscribers, very enthusiastic gardener, was talking about a cluster of storms. We are dealing with some heavy rain here in upstate New York as we speak. In fact, we're right in the middle of it, so don't be surprised. We could lose signal. But there's a lot happening right now, and this is one of those days where we can pinpoint and show you these are the reactions of solar minimum conditions. And I thought it would be perfect to bring up too, while we're talking about solar minimum, the 295.6 kilometers per second. I have observed 290 and below solar wind speeds here for the past 2 or 3 weeks, a lot more than I've seen since I started covering this. And I will say that I'm a person who probably, even when I don't do broadcast, I'll probably still check twice in the morning, twice at around noon, lunchtime, twice in the afternoon, twice in the evening, and then twice at the late night. And I can tell you that for people who think that we're seeing the sun coming back to life, I have to disagree. Yes, we've had a minor CME. Yes, we're having solar winds from a coronal hole, but we all know that coronal hole, they're formed because of weak corona on the sun. And on top of that, we're seeing a lot more of the 295 and below solar wind speeds. So this could be an indication that we are at the bottom of this particular solar cycle and beginning of solar cycle 25. This minimum, again, it took time to get to the bottom. It started in late 2016, and here we are in middle to late 2020, and we are just at the bottom. If you ask me, as far as observations from 16 to now, This is definitely the lowest as far as activity from the sun. And it's worth mentioning that it took almost 3.5 years to get to this point. So think about that in perspective when you're talking about solar maximum. That's why you hear scientists say between 2023 and 2025 is when the next solar maximum is slated to begin, as we will not see normal activity from our star if the pattern continues like we observed it coming into this minimum. It's not going to be any different coming out of it. In fact, if you go back and look at all these charts from all the previous solar minimums and grand solar minimums, you'll see that there was never a time in a cycle where it went from minimum activity to straight up maximum activity. That's never happened. And there's a reason for this. Everything is cyclic. The sun is the heartbeat, or the many of heartbeats throughout the universe. All right, let's move on here real quick to spaceweather.com. I wanted to mention the CME that they're talking about. It's possibly impacting us, but also Comet Neowise is approaching Earth. Tomorrow night may be your best chance to see Comet Neowise for the next 6,800 years. On July 23rd, the comet makes its closest approach to Earth only at 0.63 AU. That's still pretty far away. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like we're going to feel it or anything, but still. It's still visible to the naked eye from the dark sky sites, but will fade as it recedes after this week. So I'll go ahead and switch screens so you can see where to look. And that right there is where you're looking at in the sky as far as constellations, what you're looking at. I haven't seen it yet this year. I don't know if Mari might know some areas we could probably go check out tomorrow night. But we are scheduled to have rain tomorrow night, so hopefully we get some clearing after these batch of storms that we're running through right now, and tomorrow afternoon as well. So I just wanted to mention this because I haven't really even talked about this comet, and we don't broadcast as much as we used to. I'm sure I would have mentioned it, and I just can't believe I've waited till the 22nd of July to finally mention this particular comet. So let's go ahead and check out space weather section here at the grandsolarminimum.com, and here's part of the reason why we're seeing this seismic party, I should say. Yeah, quite the alignment right now, if you ask me. Low solar activity, maybe some minor A flares, maybe low B flare, but nothing crazy. We are dealing with a sunspot right now, AR 2767. Let's go ahead and put this bad boy in motion. And oh, it's going to work. How about, see, that's the coronal hole I'm talking about too, guys. And we're still dealing with that coronal hole is just now turning away. And look right behind it, the possibility of another one within the next 1 or 2 days. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed here at the end of this feed, but the satellite camera appears to shake a little bit. And I believe that that is the solar particles, because think about it. Here's where it starts. The timestamps here at the bottom will also verify that when that camera does shake, it's several hours out right there. So that's my opinion. The location of the satellite gets the solar particles there. That's why we see these satellites kind of do this adjustment. But imagine if the solar particles, and that's still that satellite's millions of miles away. Just imagine what it does to the magnetic field. And right behind it is a coronal hole, I feel, that could be a little bit more impactful on Earth's magnetic field. This one back here. And then here's AR 2767, pretty bright. So very little sunspot, but the strength for that size is, it's solid. So this one could stick around for a while. And we have plenty of space weather to keep an eye out starting really tonight. But tomorrow is when we're going to see the increase of solar wind speeds and also possible more activity as far as earthquakes right now. And who knows, we may not be done yet today. And we'll go ahead and check out a couple things here real quick. Let's go to watchers. We'll start over here. First of all, major 7.8 earthquake hits near the coast of Alaska, and there was a tsunami warning issued. Now, this was around 6:12 UTC, July 22nd this morning, very early Eastern time. And there, like I said, there was a tsunami warning for this. Now, 3 hours later, they did cancel it. But South Alaska and the Alaska Peninsula, Pacific coast from Cape Suckling, Alaska, to Kennedy Entrance, Alaska. And like I said, this was canceled right around 10:46 UTC. But here's what you do if you are in a tsunami warning area. Evacuate inland or to higher ground above and beyond designated tsunami hazard zones, or move to an upper floor of a multi-story building depending on your situation. If you are in a tsunami warning or advisory area, you should move out of the water, off the beach, away from harbors, marines, breakaways, bays, and inlets. Be alert to and follow instructions from your local emergency officials because they may have more detailed or specific information for your location. If you feel a strong earthquake or extended ground rolling, take immediate protective action, such as moving inland or uphill, preferably by foot. Boat operators, where time and conditions permit, please move your boat out of the sea into the depth of at least 180 feet. If at sea, avoid entering shallow water, harbors, marinas, bays, and inlets to avoid floating and submerged debris and strong currents. Do not go to shore to observe the tsunami. Do not return to the coast until local emergency officials indicate it is safe to do so. Now, there was a small event from this earthquake, but it wasn't anything that was a threat or that was going to cause any damage or anything like that. Now, I found this interesting. The chance of an earthquake of magnitude of 3 or higher is 99%, as few as 140, and as much as 13,000 such earthquakes may occur in the case, and that sequence is reinvigorated. Say that 5 times, sober, by a larger aftershock. So this area could remain active, and we'll go to the USGS. Not only did we have this out here, and you can see the cluster right now continues today. There's your latest 5.5. And just several earthquakes of, there's a 4.4, a 5.5, a 6.1, a 4.0, a 3.7. So far, everything that they have been predicting about this cluster here has come to fruition. So already off to a powerful start today with the earthquakes as the aftershocks continue, ranging from a low 3 to the mid 5s. 5.5 in Ivanhoe Bay in Alaska. Now, let's also zoom out too, because, and I didn't have an article for this, but I'll go ahead and put it up. We had an earthquake of 5.4. Now, that is way downgraded. The original report off of this was a 6.2. And let's see if there is another one hiding behind this. I find this report hard to believe. Yeah, 5.4, so that's a huge, huge drop. It was earlier reported as a 6.2 earthquake, and I know some of you that follow us on Facebook and Twitter also found that as well. So, but then we had the earthquake in China as well, 6.3. Strong and shallow earthquake registered by the USGS hit at 6.3 in western Xizang, China on 2207 UTC time, July 22nd. Today, the agency is reporting a depth of 6.2 miles, so very shallow. No fatalities have been reported yet. This has happened a few hours ago. Still not a lot of news on this as of yet, but it does look like in mountainous terrain. And hopefully this is a very rural area, not a lot of population here. In fact, there's a chart showing you how much shaking was actually felt, and a very little amount for moderate shaking, very little amount for strong shaking. 1,000 were exposed to very strong shaking from this earthquake. Majority of the people felt the weak version of this earthquake here. So as of this point, nothing dangerous. We dodged a bullet with the 7.8. We dodged a bullet with the 6.3. We dodged a bullet with 6.2. And just lots of activity today as far as earthquakes go. And what is causing all of that? Well, it's this guy right here. If I can get it to go in motion here. Thanks a lot, buddy. Yeah, the sun. Coronal holes. Solar wind. Forcing solar particles into our magnetic field. Also, when you have a CME, what are we looking at after this sunspot? Not much. It's pretty quiet. There's something on the very, very back side in the likelihood of another solar cycle 25 sunspot, if it is a sunspot. Do I suspect this one will decay out in a few days? Sure. It's minor. But a lot of activity happening here on Earth because of lack of activity from this guy. So this would be an interesting next couple of days. We'll probably have to do a live show tomorrow night as well, and Friday, regardless of our situation, just because there's so much to watch right now. So, all right, so we had the earthquakes today, 7.8, 6.3, and then the 6.2 in Canada. And I want to talk about this. I keep getting a comment about, what's going on in China. Yeah, there's a lot happening right now. China has gone through quite a bit of flooding situation here. Massive landslide blocks river in Hubei, prompting more than 8,000 residents to evacuate China. That's just a small part of what is actually happening out here. And there was a quick little update, not even really like a small recap, but just to give you an idea here, that this severe flood situation in China has left millions of people affected here in China, almost 30,000 houses, and has caused, amazingly, and I mean one's too many, but only 150 fatalities right now. But still, this is a lot of death from flooding in the last month or so. So anyway, the story here is that we had a landslide that blocked off this waterway and is now causing flood problems. Not only that, I mean, we've seen so many landslides this year from this kind of rain. Look at the flooding of this, folks. Look at how high that water is. Waist high. Cosmic radiation. Our magnetosphere is very weak. And that has to do with our magnetic field is weak. And we are connected to the sun. The sun's magnetic field connects to each magnetic field in the solar system. And does the sun create the magnetic field? No. Earth creates its own magnetic field, but it's all linked in the solar system. And the sun does provide it with energy or lack thereof. And when you have a weak magnetic sphere, if I can talk, Magnetosphere. Magnetic field. Magnetosphere. Whatever. It's all confusing sometimes. Sorry, folks. Long day. Excited, though, because this is proof the weakening of the magnetosphere allows more cosmic radiation to saturate the atmosphere. Tons of water vapor in the atmosphere as well. We've had some warm temperatures this summer. Water droplets and cosmic radiation, highly charged particles, that's like steroids for water droplets. And that's why we're seeing so much rain. So you've got the sun affecting the climate right now as far as rain, precipitation, flooding. We've seen record snows already in the southern hemisphere as well. We've had record cold as well in the southern hemisphere. So the sun is messing with the climate with heavy precipitation, record cold temperatures as well, and some record heat. And then on top of that, we're talking about earthquakes too, and volcanoes. And I know that I think the Stromboli volcano, once again, strong flow, lava flow. I wouldn't be surprised to see more of it as we move forward here the next several days, as we have a lot of solar activity to affect Earth's magnetic field in the coming days. And today's headline stories are all directly related to it. Now, except for the hurricanes and the tropical storms, I'm not going to sit here and say that solar cycles have something to do. Well, I mean, they play a part. They play a part. But, you know, the majority of the atmosphere and as far as conditions for these storms to develop has to be right here on Earth's surface for it to happen. But don't get me wrong, the sun has something to do with it as well. And right now, Douglas is expected to be a hurricane soon and heading towards Hawaii. The feeling of Hawaii getting a hurricane is not quite, there's not a lot of confidence in this storm. It'll be just a tropical storm by the time it makes landfall on Sunday, late Sunday, in the mainland, 8 p.m. And a lot of that has to do with the water temperature. As you can see here, it's warming up quite a bit, but on the eastern Pacific side of things, it's still pretty not really favorable for any kind of hurricane type weather. So the good news is that it's probably not going to be a full-blown hurricane. We might see some gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour, maybe. It could strengthen if the temperatures here in this side of the Pacific continue to warm up. We'll see. We're a few days out, as it's not expected to make landfall until Sunday, 8 p.m., and it's not even slated as a hurricane at that point. In fact, it looked like it loses hurricane status Friday night after 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So we will monitor that. But then you've got the Atlantic tropical storm Gonzalo forms. And this is the earliest seventh named storm on record. Whenever I see records like that, I always feel like we're reaching. The earliest seventh named storm on record. Like, okay, so it's an early storm basically for a seventh named storm. If you've wondered how the season has gone so far, now you know. This is the earliest that we've named a seventh storm in the Atlantic Basin. The previous record holder for the early seventh storm name formation in the Atlantic was Gert on July 24th, 2005. Gonzalo formed after Faye, the sixth earliest on record. So Faye was also the sixth earliest sixth storm named. And then Eduardo was the fifth earliest named storm. So this is getting really interesting. So the last three storms have been the earliest. Maybe all of these actually have probably been the earliest all year long. So interesting to see how much longer we're going to continue to call these storms the earliest named 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. How far are we going to go here? So, and then we have crop damage. Oh, before we actually go into that, let's go to Mike's. Mike's weather page here. So, on top of Hurricane Gonzalo, by the way, which it was a tropical storm earlier, it is now officially a hurricane. So, definitely impressive here. Maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour is, oh, no, maybe it's not. Yeah, it said now it's back down to tropical storm. See, it was hurricane earlier. That's what I get for jumping the gun here. Anyway, 50-mile-an-hour sustained winds. We're getting closer to hurricane status. And this thing has a good chance of getting stronger. So not quite hurricane status, but moving 14 miles per hour at west, due directly west right now. Pressure of 1,000. So not impressive, crazy, but still, this storm looks like it might have a good chance of doing something. And then we've got this disturbance. They're not calling it invest or anything like that. It just has a high chance of formation, cyclonic formation in the next 5 days. And I got to be honest with you, when we go over the GFS outlook, the GFS is definitely not very confident about any kind of activity from this particular system, but there will be plenty of tropical moisture with it. So the south will be dealing with rain from that system at least. But at this point, we're not looking like we're going to see any kind of tropical. Of course, storms can develop quickly within 24 hours, especially when, the Gulf right now, jeez, it's like bath water out here. Check it out. Let me zoom in to the, I don't know if it'll let me. Nope, it's not going to let me zoom in. Okay, well, I don't need to, I guess. You all can see it. It's pretty, the temperatures are there. Now, what would be keeping this from turning into a tropical storm or a hurricane or depression, whatever? And that could be the fact that we're not quite La Nina yet, so therefore the wind shear strength is there, but not as prevalent as it would be during an El Nino. That is about as baseline as you can get, guys, unless there is something wrong with the temperature buoy out there. Which it doesn't look like it. And you look at today's values at 0.015, that's a negative. The day before, well, it might be, guys. I don't know. We'll have to go back through and check. But that is pretty baseline. So if there is any wind shear that could fight off some of the formation of these storms right now, it's there, but very, very weak, or not as strong as it could be. Let's just put it that way. And again, when you have La Nina conditions, you're dealing with less wind shear, which gives these storms, especially if they were going over the water right now, you're talking about a pretty good chance of a development. So this thing has a high chance in the next 5 days, and as warm as the waters are here in the Gulf, I'd have to say that anything could happen within the next 24 to 48 hours. So we'll keep our eyes on that system as we speak. But like I said, we've already got Tropical Storm Gonzalo, and then you got Hurricane, what was it? Don't want to mispronounce here. Douglas. So yes, Hurricane Douglas. Douglas is a hurricane actually now. It wasn't. It was a tropical storm earlier. It just became Hurricane Douglas. That is the storm that is heading towards Hawaii, but not expected to stay a hurricane past Friday. So doesn't look like we're going to have any really early hurricane landfalls just quite yet. But the one that we really have to watch is Gonzalo. And let's check out his track. And right now, folks, if this track continues, they also have this storm, but this is too far out. We just don't know if it's going to be a storm or if it's going to keep its act together. But I have a feeling if this thing stays together in any kind of storm sense, once it gets through into the Gulf, this could be our first landfall hurricane of 2020 in the Gulf, unfortunately, and that is pretty early for this time of year. But this is also the time of the year where we start to see some more action, and we are quite a bit of it. And if you guys want to follow these storms in particular, go to Mike's weather page here with all the spaghetti models, This is the disturbance in Texas is basically going to be the ones that feel this, if anything happens from it. So a lot of rain in southern Texas would be very welcomed at this point too, as long as that's all it is. A plethora of heat advisories along the East Coast, and we'll go ahead and take a live look right now at our radar situation. And like I said, we are in a heavy rain band right now ourselves here in upstate New York. Lots of scattered thunderstorms across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley too. I mean, up and down the Mississippi. And of course, scattered showers and storms all over the South, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, even New Mexico and parts of Arizona. We're all seeing showers all the way into the Northwest. So lots of rain, a very active pattern right now as far as what we are looking at. And then here is Gonzalo's track. This is what they're thinking. Again, this is early, but these models also favor a particular chance for it to survive. Only 2 or 3 that are pretty strong right now. But like I said, if Gonzalo gets in that Gulf warm bath water, you're talking about some quick development and possibility for, a decent-sized storm early on. The temperatures are definitely ready for any kind of development. And before I move on to GFS, I wanted to mention this severe hailstorm that was caused extensive crop damage here on July 20th in Minnesota. Hail as big as 2.5 inches. That's baseball size or bigger. It says here we had a wonderful crop, best we've had in the area in 5 years. With an early planting season, unseasonably warm temperatures in late June and early July, corn and soybean crops were developmentally more advanced relative to previous years. The storm, which was up to 60 miles long and 6 miles wide, caused extensive damage to corn, soybeans, kidney beans, alfalfa, sweet corn, sugar beets, and peas. Says here that this event is really significant for this time of year, especially since commodity prices are already down. And you've got to tack that on top of the worries with what's going on with China. It doesn't sound like they are making good on all that agriculture they were supposed to buy. 50 billion, what was it? Something in that tune. Don't want to raise any worry. But this is what I was talking about a few weeks ago when the last time we updated the crops and showed how things were planting and how things were going with emerged crops. And this is the best plant we've had in 3 years. And it's been a great start. And then I've been kind of optimistic, but at the same time throwing caution at things like this. Now, this was, nothing that is going to drive a man, 20% of his crops. That's a good chunk. I'm not minimizing it, but this is what I'm worried about for the rest of the year. From here on out, severe weather, and the hail it just seems like it continues to get worse. And then our friend Matt Bros from McCook, Nebraska, this is about 8 miles away from his field. So this is not his field, but check out the damage here. I'll zoom in. Look at that, guys. These stalks were pelted. All right, let's zoom out here. I got a couple more. Matt was kind enough to send these to me. Similar damage. And sadly, this farmer sending this to Matt saying, I think it's done. I mean, yeah, the stalks are ripped off the top. Half of them are gone. The ears of corn are off. And that is what was the aftermath after the hailstorm was done. That's not snow. That is hail. So just a little bit of caution here, folks. And I warned this a few weeks ago. Once I realized how well the plant went, knowing that it's going to be a short, hot summer. Now the battle is the race to the harvest, and it begins now. And hopefully we see less severe thunderstorms, hopefully. But if you look out on your radar right now, and the United States is lit up like a Christmas tree right now. And I'll go ahead and take us to just several scattered areas of heavy thunderstorms across Georgia, across Alabama, Tennessee, and western Tennessee. Here we are near Nashville, middle Tennessee. And then in western Kentucky, near Paducah, some strong storms moving through that area. Evansville, Indiana has been experiencing heavy rain. Capital of Kentucky, Frankfort's been getting pounded. West Virginia dealing with some pretty heavy storms. In fact, right there indicates that we are looking at a severe thunderstorm warning up to minute real-time data here. This is a pretty good radar. And then the bulk of the severe weather is gone for the most part here across the East Coast. It's finally pushing off. But a lot of heavy rain still happening across on the mid-Atlantic states. But look at this. It was pretty intense. And then as we got closer to sunset, the energy of the sun has taken out a lot of the wind out of the sails of this particular line of storms. And still heavy rain across the East Coast, the I-95 corridor, and then taking you all the way up to Albany region, still in storm watches. Also heavy rain for upstate New York, and it is now finally starting to move out of the area, moving into now Vermont and New Hampshire, into Maine. Scattered and light right now, but you guys will eventually, in the southern part of Maine, you should see some of this. But what a day for the Northeast, the Midwest, and the South as well. If you guys go down here to all over parts of Florida, the Panhandle, and southern Florida as well, Daytona Beach, Fort Myers just northeast of that. So very, very active weather pattern right now. And that's just the Northeast and the Midwest. There's Arkansas, more rain out here. Severe thunderstorms across some of the nation's farmland here in Iowa and Missouri. Illinois as well, southern Illinois. Pretty quiet across the Central Plains. And a little bit active here in the Southwest, the Four Corner states as well. Northern California getting in some rain action. So, you know, let's hope that right here was where we need the quiet weather. Right here. And we've got it right now. Nothing probably makes a farmer more happier than the radar looking like this. 7 o'clock Central Time. That's a good day right there. Temperatures also are going to stay in line of summer. I did mention a high pressure system that's coming in over the beginning of August, but it's not going to provide any kind of like extreme cooling or relief completely from summer's heat, but still not bad for the beginning of August. Let's check out GFS, and this is what I meant about the active pattern of rain. The same areas that I just showed you that are getting pummeled right now, it doesn't seem like it's going to change much. That disturbance in the Gulf Coast, you can see it supplying the moisture into the south, into the Tennessee Valley, across the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. This is early next week, Tuesday. We've got rain in Kentucky and Tennessee. That system of interest there in South Texas and across Louisiana. And then upstate New York into the Northeast. More rain for you guys, even though we're not quite done with this current blast of rain that we're getting. And then by Wednesday, more rain for the Northeast, more rain for Tennessee Valley and the South again, sweeping across to the east, out to the Atlantic. And then by Thursday, more of the same for the South. More rain as high pressure does ease in. But look at that. August 1st, this high pressure will take temperatures down a little bit in the Northeast, Pennsylvania and further northeast, but driving this rain still And August 3rd into August 4th, things start to get active again. More watches in the tropics and the Gulf will be needed at that time. And then, like I said, as temperatures go, we're pretty much dealing. This is summertime. Nothing extreme, nothing crazy here. But I will take us up to August and show you where that high pressure is dominating overnight. Check this out. These are going to be nice, cool evenings here. On August 1st, usually, if you live in Ohio, 64 degrees on August 1st is a pretty good low temperature. Even a high of 82 in Cincinnati, Ohio is really good for the first day of August. And stays like this for the first couple days of August from the Midwest all the way to the Northeast. But it starts to heating up again across the central part of the United States. So the dog days of summer do appear to heat back up again along the East Coast. But GFS, to me, is indicating that I don't think that ridge is going to ride all the way up into the Northeast like it did in July. We might have a couple of upper 80 temperatures on the 5th and the 6th of August. But I don't think that high pressure, that ridging that happens usually, I don't think it's going to go that far north, at least at this point. GFS has kind of shown me that here the last 2 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised that some of the extreme heat anywhere for the Northeast. Of course, I could be jinxing every one of us in the Northeast, so I apologize for y'all if you don't like hot weather. So that's pretty much what we got to look at here for the next several days. Again, the next 2 days, I'll be interested in watching Earth today, tonight, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll be interested in seeing how things play out seismically and volcanically, along with the weather as well. Mari, would you like to say hello? I see we had a couple of new paid members. I'm sure you've got notes and stuff, so I'll let you say hello to the folks out there. My very lovely and talented producer, Mari.
I'm so rusty now.
It's all right.
We're never
it's
on,
my fault.
Jake. Everyone's like, where are you? It's about time you've gotten online,
We
Jake.
had to be online today.
It's really good to be online. Thank you, Patricia Drummond. And yes, Jake, I did take some notes. Let me just pull them up. I'm only on my phone here, so it's a little slow and tricky. Also, Laura, thank you for becoming a paid subscriber. So
Nice.
both of them were touched and humbled by all your support. Speaking of members, who did I see in here? We got Knife Collector and Randy and Pizza Hut and all the oldies but goodies. We have a lot of people talking about gardening today. Very enthusiastic gardener, which wins the first comment award, I believe.
Yes.
In the chat.
Yes, they were here before the show started.
And they're talking about cover crops and winter wheat or rye, actually. So, sharing tips and tricks. People asked me how my garden went, and I went,
Yeah, well, we got involved with some
we took on
projects.
this project with the house, deciding it was time to make a run for it, and it's totally just distracted us from everything, hasn't it, Jake?
It has, and
quite the project.
Trying to catch up with this stuff too. But I was talking to Matt, and some of their harvest for the winter wheat was okay. But that hail damage I showed you guys, that was about a 2-mile swath. So not as big as what happened in Minnesota. That was a 6-mile swath. But still, it's good to be back on the air when we can communicate to you guys, especially when there's so much happening like there is right now. If there is any breaking news, we will be on live to report it. Was that all you had, Mari?
I think so.
All right.
I didn't take too many notes. It's just,
Well,
I'll let you take over, Jake.
All right, well, that's good. Get out of here.
Am I making you nervous sitting here like this, just listening to the show?
Just get out of my area. I'm just joking. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. We hope everyone has a safe evening, and we will talk soon.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform, buy a t-shirt, or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.